Welcome to the CompTIA Project Plus Prepcast by baremetalcyber.com. Schedule and budget development are inseparable components of the project planning phase. Both depend on inputs such as the work breakdown structure, the resource plan, and accurate activity estimates. Together, they create the foundation for realistic commitments to stakeholders. When these elements are integrated, they support risk management by making constraints and dependencies visible early in the process. Accurate planning in these areas ensures stakeholders have reasonable expectations for both delivery timeframes and costs. Misalignment between the two can cause significant disruptions during execution. Weak planning in either schedule or budget may result in delays, unplanned cost increases, or the need to reduce scope. The combined discipline of managing both is essential to maintaining control throughout the project lifecycle. The project schedule defines the timing of all planned work from initiation to closure. It specifies when each task is expected to start and finish, showing their relationship to the overall project timeline. This schedule also incorporates sequencing, dependencies, and activities that are critical to meeting deadlines. As a baseline, it enables monitoring of progress and early identification of slippage. Beyond listing dates, a well-developed schedule visualizes the logical flow of work. It highlights key milestones, contractual deadlines, and any buffer periods to accommodate uncertainty. By mapping out this structure, project managers create a tool that can be used for forecasting and scenario analysis. This allows informed decision-making when issues arise that threaten the planned timeline. Using the work breakdown structure to build the schedule starts with breaking work packages into smaller activities. Each activity is given an estimated duration and assigned to a responsible party. Activities are then arranged on the timeline according to their logical sequence. The resulting schedule represents the entire scope of work in time-based form, ensuring that nothing from the WBS is omitted. Dependencies between tasks dictate their order and whether they can overlap. These relationships may be finish to start, start to start, finish to finish, or start to finish, and may be internal to the team or external to the project. Recognizing and mapping these dependencies prevents conflicts in execution and reveals the critical path. Errors in logic can create unrealistic forecasts that undermine credibility. Estimating activity durations relies on methods such as reviewing historical data, consulting experts, or applying parametric formulas. Estimates should account for resource availability, complexity of work, and any known constraints. Each estimate must also include documented assumptions and possible risks. The accuracy of these durations improves significantly when the scope is well defined and resources are confirmed. Identifying the critical path is one of the most important steps in schedule development. The critical path represents the longest sequence of dependent tasks with zero float. This sequence dictates the earliest possible project completion date. Monitoring it closely ensures that delays on these activities are addressed promptly as they directly extend the project timeline. Buffers are deliberately placed into schedules to provide flexibility in high-risk or uncertain areas. Common types include project buffers that protect the overall completion date, feeding buffers that protect critical path tasks, and management reserves. These are not substitutes for sound planning, but safeguards against variability. The placement and size of buffers should be based on justified risk analysis and remain visible in the schedule. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other prepcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. The project budget is a comprehensive estimate of all costs necessary to execute the project successfully. It includes expenses for labor, materials, travel, equipment, training, and contracted services. Every budget line should be directly tied to elements in the work breakdown structure, scheduled activities, or procurement plans. A detailed and well-documented budget forms the basis for effective cost control and financial reporting throughout the project. Cost estimates can range from a rough order of magnitude, which provides a broad, early forecast, to detailed bottom-up estimates that account for every work package. Estimating techniques include analogous methods based on past projects, parametric methods using statistical relationships, and three-point estimating to address uncertainty. A cost breakdown structure maps each estimate to its corresponding WBS element. Each estimate should clearly state its assumptions, the expected accuracy, and associated risks. Fixed costs are those that remain constant regardless of project volume, such as software licenses or major equipment purchases. Variable costs change based on usage, including labor hours or consumption of raw materials. Differentiating between these categories helps refine forecasts and inform contractual agreements. Understanding how each cost behaves also supports contingency planning by identifying which expenses are most sensitive to changes in scope or timing. The cost baseline is the approved version of the project budget that has been allocated across the timeline and deliverables. It includes direct and indirect costs, as well as contingency amounts approved for known risks. This baseline is the reference for measuring performance using techniques like earned value management. Any changes to the baseline require formal review and approval through the established change control process. Aligning the budget with the schedule ensures that funding is available when specific activities are due to start. Cash flow planning identifies exactly when payments will need to be made for labor, materials, and vendor deliverables. If scheduled tasks are delayed, the timing of associated costs may also shift, potentially creating cash flow challenges. Maintaining this alignment prevents shortfalls and keeps the project financially stable. Procurement and vendor-related costs are established through contracts, quotes, and rate agreements. Payments to vendors may be structured around milestones, time periods, or fixed prices, depending on the terms negotiated. Collaboration between procurement teams and project managers helps validate that estimates are realistic and terms are favorable. These costs should be tracked separately within the budget for transparency and accurate reporting. Contingency funds are built into the budget to address identified risks that could impact cost. Management reserves are separate amounts held outside the cost baseline to cover unforeseen events and require approval before use. Both are calculated based on risk exposure and historical project performance data. Their use must be documented, justified, and reviewed to ensure financial discipline. The budget review and approval process involves sponsors or financial stakeholders assessing the proposed plan. In some cases, approval is granted in stages based on deliverables, milestones, or funding gates. Delays or rejections during this process can stall the project's start or increase its overall risk. Supporting documentation should clearly outline all assumptions, methods, and data sources used in developing the budget. Budget tracking tools range from simple spreadsheets to integrated enterprise resource planning systems. These tools should link budgets directly to tasks, assigned resources, and vendor invoices. Real-time monitoring allows for variance analysis and corrective action before problems escalate. Dashboards and automated reports increase visibility for sponsors and other stakeholders, supporting timely decision-making. Communicating the approved schedule and budget commitments is critical to ensuring everyone understands the plan. This is often done during a kickoff meeting that reviews major deadlines, funding allocations, and expectations. Regular updates keep stakeholders informed of progress and emerging risks. Transparent communication builds trust and supports better coordination across the project team. Schedules and budgets are the mechanisms by which scope is transformed into a realistic and trackable plan. Both must be based on validated assumptions, available resources, and clearly defined deliverables. When integrated effectively, they support consistent execution, accurate reporting, and informed decision-making. Strong planning practices in these areas contribute to predictable project outcomes and high stakeholder confidence. Thank you for listening. Please follow baremetalcyber.com on social media and check out our books at cyberauthor.me.